And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. We have our new series, Securing the Perimeter, Spiritual and Physical Defense in an Age of Marxist Revolution. I knew this was the one man we have to have on the show. Pierce Toomey, thank you very much. Catholic Guardians, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Really, this is awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were just talking about, well, first of all, spiritual and physical defense for ourselves, our homes, our protecting our family and friends. A lot of people get, I think, a false sense, a false understanding of Jesus Christ. I think people look at him as the hippie Jesus. What are your thoughts there?
He's never he's never violent. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And my dad likes to talk, Catholics, his biggest gripe with being a Catholic is that Catholics have a bad handle on the Old Testament, which I don't think they have a bad handle on the Old Testament, right? I don't think Catholics are very well versed in Scripture at all, but it's this overwhelming
misunderstanding
desire. Yeah, everywhere. Turn the other cheek. Live by the sword, die by the sword. There's all of these like pacifist scriptures that Catholics take in at face value and then just run with it. And it's like Christ judged everybody while he was on earth. Everybody that he talked to, he had a judgment for them. And that's obviously, Christ is the great judge. So, but it was, you're a hooker, that's cool. Go on hooking. Like he had harsh judgment for people around him. But moreover, Christ was a warrior. And I think everybody forgets the end of the book where Christ comes back as the warrior. Like he's the epitome of the warrior at the end of this. But then there's always, it's within a matter of hours of Christ saying, Peter, put your sword away. He who lives by the sword, die by the sword. And several hours before, Christ was flipping tables and fashioning a whip and beating men out of his father's temple. So there's the both. It's not an either or it's a both and, right? Loving judgment. Yeah, it's a unique situation because you can't have mercy without judgment. You can't have, or without justice, and you can't have justice without mercy, right? Like they both have to go hand in hand. You can't always be merciful and you can't always be a judgmental pain in the butt. So you've got to find that balance. But I guess in our modern world, we've gone without the judgment and we've gone solely into this whole, it's all mercy. It's all that. And it's a shame because I think you're missing out on some of the greatest parts of Christ the Redeemer is when Christ is the warrior. So.
Right. We're all about love. We're all about mercy. We're certainly not talking about going out of our way, looking to pick a fight. But as men, we need to be able to defend our wife. We need to be able to defend our family. And that's what Christ wants, the patriarchy. So this is good stuff. It's all a matter of providing and protecting for the people that we love. And we don't get that sense that we're actually dropping the ball as men if we don't take care of our home and take care of our wife and our family. That is actually our responsibility. As you said, people misunderstanding the Bible, only, blipping over the verses of Christ with the judgment. As you said, I've heard a priest say from the pulpit that Jesus was clobbering people in the temple, clobbering them with the whip. So, it's
yeah.
So, and then it's my understanding from reading Exodus that if someone breaks into your home, we're not talking about you, like if someone's already down, but like if someone breaks into your home and you shoot them and you kill them, that's not even a venial sin. You don't have to say that in confession at all. That's my understanding.
No, you don't. So, when it comes to a just war or self-defense, you obviously have to use right, and so you can, I'm gonna shoot him in the leg because I hope that stops it. But so when it comes to self-defense, every Christian, every Catholic, every man has the right to defend himself, and it's more than just your family. It's those that are entrusted to your care, right? So that could be your family, your immediate family, if you're part of a neighborhood watch, if you're part of a church security or safety team. It's people who have entrusted their lives and their safety to you. You have a duty using violence against people that wish to do harm against them, not just kill them, to do harm against them. And if you don't, you're then committing sin.
Right.
Because you, the community, men, you know, like I did a post the other day on my page and I said, you know, is it ever okay to use violence to defend the church? Whether the frustrated, and it's like I got really frustrated, so I did something that was slightly less, I think, intelligent of myself. I got out and I just told men I was disgusted with them. I was like, you like the men that say violence is never an acceptable form to defend the church are disgusting. Like Christendom would have never made it this far if men capable and willing to commit violent acts just been like, no, like I'm not going to do that. Like we began to say the church, but it gets to the, what are you willing to do for Christ, right? Because like if you're not willing to do it for Christ, then like I doubt you'll do it for your family. I doubt you'll do it for your wife. And so, you know, when I got guys that were like, violence is never the answer, it's like, okay, would you use violent actions against another individual to stop them from hurting your wife or your children? Well, yeah. It's like, then why does Christ get the short end of the stick? But it's like, you say yes to your wife, but if you say no to God, I guarantee you'll say no to your family. Or it just shows me that you have zero supernatural faith, right? You're too concerned with the temporal realm, where you're worried about your life here and you're not worried about your life eternal. And so you're willing to turn your back on Christ. But I doubt that if anybody who calls himself a Christian or calls himself a Catholic says they wouldn't defend Christ violently, they wouldn't do it for their own family. And it's a shame. It really is. It's a disgusting shame that men call themselves men to use acts of violence to defend their family, their homes, and their churches.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. All right, so we got the theory behind it. So let's talk about some defense. How do we protect our home? What weapons should we have? I'll turn it over to you. What practical?
Okay, so I think the first step, so the most practical is don't live in a crowd, right? That's easier said than done, right? Obviously, there's a lot of play that goes into where you're able to live, but you know, the first one is if you don't have to live in a scuzzy neighborhood, don't live in a scuzzy neighborhood. Occurrences of conflict is probably the safer physically and spiritually, right? Like if I can avoid walking through a combat zone, I probably will, because I don't want to have to be confronted with having to commit a violent act on anybody. So you want to make sure that you're living in a safer area if you can. If you can't, it's really going to come down to a couple of different things. So when it comes to, I call them tools, whether that's knives, clubs, guns, pepper spray, tasers, batons, baseball bats, heavy textbooks, like whatever weapon or tool you have to defend yourself, the first thing that you need to do is you need to be able to get trained with it, right? So an ability for an individual to use that, right? And not only a tool, but just general like boxing skills, right? So the way I explain it, because I own firearms, and a lot of people don't understand the conflict. That they see there's a conflict between the two. And my ability to punch people in the face buys me seconds of time that I can use to get to my firearm, because firearms are the ultimate equalizer, right? Like my 110-pound wife can take down a 280-pound angry dude because she's got a gun, right? And that's great, but you need some capacity to get to the firearm, right? Because you're not going to be walking around slinging guns everywhere you go. You need a little bit of an option for time. So hand-to-hand combat, really, really important for men, women, and children. You need to be able to use a tool, whatever tool that you buy. So that, I mean, obviously that's going to change state to state. So you need to be very aware of what the laws are. But get a tool that you're comfortable with, and then train with it. And then the next step is to be willing to use that tool, right? So I don't care if you're really good at shooting. I don't care if you're really good at knife fighting or clubs or tasers or pepper spray. But if you're not willing, that tool becomes a weapon against you. So you want to make sure that whatever you have, you're trained in it and that you're willing to use it. So those are like your overwhelming kind of stick on tools. Get one that you're comfortable with, be trained in it, and then be willing to use it. And then if you're willing to use it, keep it with you, right? Because a gun in a safe 2 doors down does you no good if there's a robber in your room, or so I mean, you need to have access to it. You need to have training, the willful nature to using the firearm, and then you need to have one. So that's when it comes to whatever tool you have. That's I would say that's the first big step. Questions? Anything on that? Because sometimes I blast through it so quickly. Some people get missed on some things. No?
I guess the first thing people think is, well, how do we keep it safe? How do we make sure our kids don't get hurt, or someone, someone in the family didn't use it, God forbid, on themselves or on someone else?
Yeah, so I would say, along with training, your family's exposure to it, right? So for me, firearms are a huge part of our household, right? Like, we've got guns everywhere. Some of them are locked up. Most of them are in a safe. Some of them aren't. Some of them are secured in holsters. Some of them are on our persons. But, especially with kids, the first thing that you do is you teach them about it, right? Like, if it becomes this taboo thing, obviously you're going to almost incite an incident where the kid is going to go after the thing that they're not allowed to do, right? Like, the first thing a kid does after they're told no is usually they'll do it, right? So it's like, don't touch the gun, don't touch the knife. So you expose it to them in a controlled environment. Obviously, you don't give kids loaded guns unless you're, they've been trained, you've been trained, you're at the range, it's a proper environment. But you just teach them. You talk to them about it. You let them be around them. You let them get comfortable with them. And then as they get older and more proficient and more intelligent, then you can give them a little bit more room, I guess would be the right way to say it, right? So guns in the, those are totally protected. Then you've got guns that are secure. So I actually happen to have one with me. So this is my concealed carry, right? It's in a holster, right? So, and there's some rules when it comes to holsters. I've got a good holster, right? Some people go out and they buy like the $9 junk holster. You don't want to do that, right? Your gun costs $300 or $400, maybe more, depending on how nice the gun is. Get a good holster, right? One that if you like hold it like this, the gun's not going to like drop out. So you want something that's a good holster. But guns stay in holsters, right? The only time a gun isn't in the holster is in one of two situations.
Yeah.
It's in your hand. They've got. If you've got a lot of kids, you put it in an area where they can't get to. The same thing that you would do with your butcher knives, your steak knives, anything sharp. What you do with your cleaning solutions, anything that's dangerous to kids, you keep it away from children. Same thing with a firearm, right? So whether you're, like we've got some really tall cabinets in our kitchen. When I come home, if I'm going to be in the kitchen, I put it up in one of the top drawers of the cabinet so the kids can't get to it. They literally have to go to the garage, get a ladder, come out and get to it. When it's in my bedroom, it's in my nightstand, and there's a nice little lock system to my nightstand. It's simple for me, but it's complicated for the kids. So you kind of have to go by what you're comfortable with and what your kids are capable of doing, right? So make sure your kids are exposed, make sure they know what's up, teach them about it. I really don't like it when it's like, oh, that's a gun, oh, stay away. It's like, that's not the right reaction. Like, that's not what you want to teach kids. You want them to be around it. Just like when it comes to any part of our faith, you don't tell kids to shy away from it. Like, you expose it to them. You expose it to them in a way that they can understand, as opposed to just being like, that's too complicated. Like, let's not talk about hell with a 5-year-old. It's like, let's talk about hell with 5-year-olds, but in a way that they'll understand it. And then as they get older, you can kind of reevaluate what you're explaining to them. It's the same thing with weapons, whether it's knives, clubs, guns, tasers, pepper spray, all of the above, right? So you expose them gradually, constantly with a watchful eye, giving them hands-on training, and then obviously making sure that if you're not around them, I think that's a really important concept for people to get.
Okay. So what is the absolute bare minimum in terms of guns or weapons that you would say that if someone was a complete minimalist, what would they have? And then what would your actual recommendations be to people for, like close, medium, distance, all of that?
So it's not, there isn't a specific gun, right? And I would love if there was, that'd be really cool. But it comes down to a couple of different aspects, right? What are you capable of handling?
Okay.
Where are you most likely in performance rifles, like the rifles that I spend a good amount of money on? They're a little bit more complicated than, say, like a regular pistol, or like a shotgun or a bolt action rifle, or something more simple. But I also go through a great deal of training with those weapons so that I understand them and I'm better with them. So if you're willing to put the time in, you can get a bigger rifle or a pistol or whatever. But whatever you get, the first thing is you have to be comfortable with it. The last thing that you want to do is go to a gun store, look at something and be like, oh, that looks pretty, or that looks mean, or that looks dangerous. I'm going to get that one. Like, you need to hold it. You want to be able to handle it. You need to know about it, and you need to be able to use it. There's a lot of the times when it comes to, so here, I'll demo this. Right. So when you've got your pistol, a lot of the times when you have to like pull the slide back, right? Whether you're loading it or unloading it, if you get somebody who's weaker, so like maybe women, young kids, they can't really pull it back, automatically that's the wrong tool for them, right? If they can't function the weapon, there's no reason that they should be handling it. So if they can't pull the slide out, if they can't put it on safe, if they can't unload it, then there's no reason for them to be using it, right? So you need to find something that works for them, whether you take them to a range. A lot of ranges, depending on where you live, have a boat you can rent and then shoot. So they do that. Like, when my wife and I were going shopping for a gun for her, we went to the gun store and I literally had her, and God bless the salesman, he was super annoyed with me. He unlocked every gun case and we literally went gun by gun by gun by gun until my wife found one that she could work and she felt comfortable hand. So that was her first gun, right? Then you look at a couple other aspects. Like, if they're super scared of it because of how it looks, don't go for it. They need to be not only like physically comfortable, like utilizing the gun, handling it, but not so emotionally scared of it. Because if you're scared of it, you're never going to use it. Like, you don't want to be around it. You need to be comfortable with it. So I would just go find something that makes you comfortable, right? Or less super uncomfortable, and then get that and then train with it. When it comes to what we have at my property house thing, I have guns kind of based, and I messaged you. We were talking about this. I categorize guns into 3 different areas. I've got close, I've got far, right? So close to me is always pistol. So when I consider close, I talk about me, the general area, a car's distance away from me, maybe, right? So I would consider that close range. I should be able to own that area with the tool that I've got, right? So inside the length of a car, inside the length of my hallway, inside the length of my house, the tool that I have, that's small range, I have to be able to own that area with the tool. So with me and my training, anything inside the house, anything inside a car's distance, anything the stretch, the entire length of my home, I master that with a pistol, which is great. The next is going to be medium range. So medium range, I would consider to be like you to a neighbor's house or you outside of your home, right? So within, call it 40 yards ish, right around there, you have to be able to own that. And so you get a medium round or a medium weapon, right? So not a pistol, because that's a bit of a push for somebody. 40 yards is not super far, but it is for a pistol. So you get something a little bit bigger, maybe a small caliber rifle, maybe a shotgun with slug, not birdshot, not buckshot, something like that. You want a solid round. Long range shooting is, call it 50 yards or more. And you talk about like hunting rifles. You're talking about not your neighbor's house, but your neighbor's neighbor. right? Depending on, how far away you are. But you think about the usefulness of it, right? Most conflict happens within 27 feet of you. So a lot of these times when you get guys who like go out and they, I'm getting a close gun, a far gun, a medium gun, I'm going to get a battle rifle, I'm going to get a CQB, I'm going to get a sniper rifle, I'm going to get this and that and that and that. It's like you've got 19 guns. They span 19 different calibers. Like, are you going to be able to afford that? Are you going to be able to get good training on that? Most of the time, people can get away with one of two things: a really nice pistol that they keep in their house, or a small caliber rifle, right? So for me, in my home, my pistol is my go-to. It's the weapon that I feel the most comfortable using in the confines of my wife used it. So I've got an AR-15 that I built for her. It keeps 30 rounds in it. So I don't have to worry about my wife reloading. She's probably not going to be able to reload it. So I give her a weapon with a high. She's 5.56 through a house. Isn't going to be. You're not going to. It's not going to be like the world ending. But then again, that comes down to you. How willing are you to train with your rifle, your pistol? Like the train put into it, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. How frequently should you be practicing? How frequently should your wife be practicing? And what age do you start your kids learning how to use guns, and which ones do you use for training?
So the training comes down to two different kinds of training, right? It's fire and dry fire. Dry fire is there's no ammunition in the firearm, and you can do that, right? So a lot of the fundamentals, and Jesse Romero really understands this because he was a cop, and so that kind of training is really important to them. Ammunition is a finite resource, right? So these little things cost a good deal of money in the long run. A single 9mm round, I think street value right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of a quarter to 4 cents a round. So that seems kind of cheap, but when you go to the range and you shoot 200 rounds, that's a lot of money quickly, right? So dry 10 minutes, whether I'm practicing drawing from my holster, drawing from concealment, loading, reloading, magazine exchanges, clearing malfunctions. I do it every day, 10 minutes, right? My wife probably on a month, maybe, because number one, very rarely does my wife find herself in a situation I'm not around that could be dangerous. See that she would need to use a firearm is so low that her frequency in training can drop with it proportionally, right? So she might train once a month. She might pick up a gun, go through the actions, the fundamentals. I do it on the daily because, again, I carry concealed every day. So because I'm around the firearm all the time and I'm carrying it with me, my training needs to be in proportion to my use, right? So I train every day because I carry every day. Live fire training, I personally, I'm blessed enough to have the opportunity. I go every week to 2 weeks. I go out to the range and I put live rounds down range. It's getting in your accessibility state. We've got a group. The range, anything. Live fire training to the $200, get a whole bunch of ammo, and then go to the range and then spend money on the range. Take the time. So you do the most amount of training that you can that's in line with what your financial situation and your time allows. So I would say that. When it comes to the how young, how old do you start shooting? My son started shooting at 5. He was big enough to handle a gun at 5. He was strong enough to again talk about like actually working the mechanics of this pistol. He was 5 years old when he started. Intellectually, he was ready at about 4.5. He understood that guns killed people, and because of that, he gave it a great deal of respect. But I've met some 6-year-olds that I wouldn't even give a Nerf gun to. So it's up to you. Are you a good parent who's patient and teaching your kids? If you are, and your child is intelligent enough to understand, then it's up to the parent. I don't want to be a hardliner and be like, no, 10 is the minimum, or 7 is the minimum, or 5. It's up to the parent, their capacity to train their kids, and then their kids' level of intellectual capacity to understand what guns do. Right? Important is the younger you can get a kid around a gun, and the better you are at teaching them, the safer it'll be for them in the long run, because they'll have a greater deal of respect for firearms in the future. Right?
Makes sense. How much ammo should you have in the house at all times, and how frequently should you clean weapons?
Okay, so I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. All of the ammo. Get as much ammo as you can. Period. Right? I don't want to be like a prepper, but of our surplus money goes into purchasing ammunition, right? Not only for training, but for just not stockpiling. But I want a lot of ammo, right? I shoot a lot. I need a lot. But there's going to become a time where finding ammunition is going to be substantially harder than it is now. And I don't want to have a finite resource run out on me, right? So get as much ammo as you can. Make sure you've got 2 different kinds of ammo. There's training ammo, and then there's useful ammo. Training ammo you don't kill people with because it's cheaply made. It doesn't have the right ballistic characteristics, right? So really cheap ammo is usually really lightweight rounds. So for instance, this is my 9mm carry. It's 147 grain hollow point plus piece. So it's got a little bit more powder to it. This round costs 85 cents a piece. My training ammo is 115 grains. It's crap. It costs 29 cents to make. So I have a lot of this so that I can use it defensively. This is the load that I keep in all of my defensive rounds, or my defensive guns. But the cheap ammo is what I go train with. So you need to have both, right? You don't want to be using your firearm with training ammo in a defensive posture, because it's inappropriate to do that. If that's all you have, that's all you have. But if you can do both, you'd want to do both. As far as cleaning, some guns I never clean, guns a lot. My pistol that I was just showing you, I did last weekend. I put about 2,000 rounds through it, going through pistol carbine. I'm probably going to have to clean it because I did a course about a month and a half ago, and I put another 2,000 rounds through it during that course, and I haven't cleaned it since then. It's dirty. It functions really well. So it's up to you. It's up to the gun, right? So like a lot of people know, like the 2 big rifles that everybody knows, AR-15s, AK-47s. Some AR-15s you have to clean a lot. AK-47s you don't ever have to clean. So it comes down to the gun. It comes down to how good you are at cleaning, the cleaning solutions that you use, the storage of your firearm. Like if I kept my pistol in a drawer full of socks, there's going to be lint and there's going to be fabric that's going to just kind of gather on the gun. It's probably not going to function so well. So I might want to keep it clean. If you keep your gun in a safe, you probably don't have to clean it very often, right? So storage and use are going to dictate how often and how you clean the gun. So this needs to be a firearms course, but there's 2 different levels of disassembly. There's what's called a battlefield strip, where you just take the firearm down into its main components. And then there's pins and screws, where you take everything apart into every individual spring, every individual pin, and you scrub all. I don't do my guns almost ever. I really don't see the need. Guns are pretty well manufactured now that they don't have to be so intricately cleaned. Some guns, I do a cursory clean to it. I don't even take them apart. I just kind of like scrub the dirty places and put some oil and some cleaning solution in it, and that'll do fine. So again, use storage. The quality of the firearm and the quality of your cleaning material kind of go into that.
All right, excellent. And as we move on, if you think of anything back to the guns or any of the previous topics, just throw it in. It doesn't matter if we're out of order. Anything else that you feel like we must have in terms of defense, or anything in terms of certain types of flashlights, whistles, pepper spray, clubs, any of that stuff that you would just say, hey, this is a must. You got to get it.
So I would say your must is a medical kit, right? Tourniquets for sure. So I mandated this in my family. My wife has a tourniquet in her car. My truck has a tourniquet in it. I have in my wife's diaper bag purse thing that she carries with her. There's a full trauma kit, so it's a blood trauma kit. So it's for anything for serious bleeding. So sucking chest wound, any sort of a massive cut to an extremity. She's got a tourniquet, a pressure bandage, and then she's got quick clot. They cost maybe $100 on Amazon. You get them. I put them in there, right? Because again, I don't want to just have a gun. I want to have a gun and then the tools to help me fix what guns do, right? So in a gunfight, somebody's getting shot, and I'm not gonna ignore that fact. And again, as a Christian, like if for instance, I could put together a situation where somebody attacked me and I had to use my firearm defensively to defend myself, and I shot them and they didn't die, I would attempt to, if the situation allowed for it, render aid to that person. Because if I can save them while mitigating the danger to my family, I will. But I can't do that if I don't have any tools, right? And then on the flip side of that, if I'm shooting at you, it's probably because you're shooting at me. And if I get hit, I don't want to be a casualty to my family, because then they're screwed of having to drag my 185-pound butt to the car, to the ambulance, or whatever. Right. So I've got tools that allow for me and my family to be safe, not only in a defensive posture, but in a medical aspect to it. So I carry a tourniquet in my pocket every day. My wife has one in her car. I've got one in my truck. She's got them in her diaper bag. I have a ankle kit. So there's a great site called the Warrior Poet Society. They're run by a really cool guy, and he sells an ankle first aid kit. It's like a small elastic band. It goes around your ankle, and it's a trauma kit. So keep those. Those are as, if not more important than keeping firearms with you, because you want to be an asset, not a casualty.
Okay, great. Anything else now? Like, I guess about the home, thinking about what alarms, spotlights. Do you have a fence? Do you keep the windows always closed? Do you keep the windows always open? Any of that? Dogs.
So at night,
dogs fend people off. Go ahead.
No, I'm not so big on dogs, right? Like whether if you have dogs, great. If you don't have dogs, great. I mean, I've had dogs that bark at everything, and I've had dogs that don't bark at anything. So, like if you've got a dog, great. If not, don't put all of your safety coins in the dog basket. When it comes to windows being open or being shut, I don't allow street-facing windows to be open at night, right? Unless they're on like a second story. So the side of my house that faces the street, those windows can be open during the day as long as somebody's around. But at nighttime, they get shut and they get locked. The blinds get drawn. There's no reason that at nighttime somebody can look and get access to your house visually through an open window or a window that doesn't have drapes or curtains drawn. That's dumb, right? The next thing is whether you have spotlights that are timed, spotlights that are motion set, right? But if you've got a spotlight on a portion of your house and it lights up, what does that do for you? If that light goes off and it alerts you, great. But if that light just goes off, it's not going to do anything, right? So again, if somebody's testing the security of your and what you have in place does nothing, then it doesn't do anything. It's a failed test, right? So like you can, in a security gate, a lot of wealthier communities have guard gates, but you can go up and by just going in and be like, oh, Director X and my buddy just pulled through like 2 minutes ago, and I don't know what the code is, and they're, oh, come on through. It's like now your guard does nothing to protect you. So if you've got some, make it useful for you. So we have spotlights in an area that's covered by a camera, and those systems alert us, whether that alert on or on my watch, or it makes an audible ding inside the house. If you're going to spotlight something, spotlight it, have surveillance of it, and then be able to know what's going on. So that on the interior of our property, I keep the windows open, right? But only in rooms that I'm in. So it's not like I keep my kids' windows open. because that's dangerous. I keep their windows locked. I keep mine open because right now my wife is pregnant at 1,000,000 degrees. So we keep it when the window open, but I'm in the room. So it's not like somebody's going to be able to break in through the window and I'm going to be lost in the sauce, right? I'll know right away if something's happening. So that's important. As far as fences go, if you look at, like the dream home, it's that white picket fence. That white picket fence doesn't do anything, right? I mean, you'd have to have a pretty industrial sized fence. So it comes up to what's useful for you, what's logical for your area. Obviously, you don't want your house to look like Fort Knox, because then all of a sudden somebody's gonna be like, oh, gee, I wonder what's in their house. It might be worth for me to break into it, regardless of what the security measures look like outside. So you got to play a little bit of that game where it's, be intelligent about it. So lighting is good. Video surveillance is better. Alarm systems are great. There you have, there's Ring, which is that, I think, the doorbell one. There are a couple other ones that are like wireless cameras that when they get alerted, you get alerted. So something that's active versus passive is always better. So passive is just a security system that runs to see what happened, as opposed to an active security system that alerts you when something active is always better, right? So that's my deal, at least when it comes to like an outward security posture from your home, is be proportional. You don't want your house to look super guarded, because then somebody's going to be like, oh, gee, I wonder what's in there. Don't give dummies easy access, right? So a lot of people do this. Garage door openers that are in call, like, that makes no sense to me, right? And so a lot of times what thieves will do is they'll break into a car, they'll gain access to the garage door opener, they'll use the garage door opener to open the garage door, and people don't lock their house from their garage because they have a shut garage door, but the keys are outside. It would be as simple as leaving the keys to your front door in the front door outside. So things like that are pretty intelligent. So just lock your doors, use deadbolts. Those are really, really simple, I would say, security upgrades that you can make. You can always replace, I'm in my shop and I don't have any with me. Use like 3-inch wood screws and replace all of the hardware on your door. Replace all of the screws with 3-inch wood screws, right? A lot of them come with like, 3/4 inch, and there's junk. You can kind of like just pull those off. Use 3-inch screws. Drive your deadbolt lock, the door handle, all of those screws, replace those with 3-inchers, so they go past just the frame, but they go into the house itself. Those are really, really helpful. I do that every time we get into a new house. The first thing I do is I pull out my screws and my drill, and I re-drill those. So that's really important. Even if you live in an apartment, you should do it in an apartment or a condo. Nobody's ever going to know. Nobody's going to look at the screw, but it's an extra level of security.
Excellent. Anything else with the windows?
Dowels. So you can cut a closet dowel, put it in the bottom, so that way they can't cut the screen and slide it. Other than that, there's really not much. I mean, the between security and liberty, right? Like, you can have a completely secured house, but that house would have no doors and no windows. So that's not going to be capable. Like, that's not possible. So you have to kind of weigh your options. Maybe in rooms that have street side access, you don't have super valuable items. So the rooms that face our street don't have nice, fixtures or appliances. Like, none of that stuff exists in those rooms, because it's, it's almost like eating candy in front of a kid. Like, they're going to want to see it in my house or a little bit further away from access. So dowels, keep windows shut, lock your windows, do a check at night before you go to bed. Guys should do this every day anyway. But when you go to bed, make sure all of the exterior doors are locked, all of the windows are closed and locked, all of the blinds are drawn, and just kind of make it like a nightly habit. We just go around the house, takes an extra. Nobody's house is so big that it takes you an hour to secure it. So I think that's important too.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, your wife goes out. What should she be carrying on her? If not a gun, does she carry a certain, like a pocket knife? Do you go pepper spray, brass knuckles? What's the idea there?
Yeah, sure. Brass knuckles. I like that.
I don't know.
No, wife, right? It's one that I have with, gun guys, like hillbilly idiots that like guns. They're not good teachers. So if you're uh, uh, if you're a husband and your wife is leaving the house, arm her with the most effective tool that she's capable and willing to use, right? So if that's a cell phone, then that's a cell phone, right? Like I'm not going to give my wife. So I have a truck gun. I've got a truck rifle. I keep it with me. My wife does not, because my wife does not know how to use it as well. Nor is it going to be as full in her hands as it would be in mine. So I don't give it to her because it's not going to be used. Sometimes when she's got all of our kids and she's going out, if it's into a really nice neighborhood or I'm comfortable with where she's going, if she doesn't want to bring her gun, it's like, you know what? Don't bring your gun. If she's going to a really bad area and I, for whatever reason, can't be there, maybe I give her the best tool that she'll use. If it's a gun, it's a gun. If it's a taser, it's a taser. If it's pepper spray or brass, like just give your wife the best tool that you know she'll use. Don't be the jerk husband who goes, no, you have to carry a gun, because now it's a pound dead weight to her. She's not going to use it. She's not well trained in it, but you're ignorantly telling her to carry it with her. It's unfair. You're putting an undue burden on your wife. If she's not comfortable, try training her, try getting her used to it, and then letting her go out with those tools, as opposed to this ignorant, my wife always carries a gun because guns are good, and bad guys are going to get smoked by my wife. It's like, well, if your wife can't shoot well, she's probably not going to smoke the bad guy. She's probably going to plug some innocent bystander in the back. Let your wife leave the house as well armed as she can be through her own level of comfort. That's important, right? And then try and up train her to the tool that you want her to use, but don't impose such a heavy burden on your wife. If she needs a gun and she doesn't want to carry it, you should be with her. Like if you're so concerned about, you should be, right? Don't just delegate the safety off to your wife and be like, oh babe, just bring the bazooka today. Don't forget your body armor. Like if you're that concerned, why is she going there by herself? Right? Like Adam and Eve in the garden, Adam's biggest sin was neglecting his job as protector of his wife, and he allows his wife to convert, and he does nothing about it, right? Don't be Adam.
Right. Makes sense. Is there any armor that we should all have at our house?
Yeah. So soft armor. So get the highest level that you can. I have, so there's soft armor and then there's plates. Plates are like the really rigid steel ceramic plates that you can buy. You put them in body armor. That's not very practical. Soft armor is better, right? So soft armor is flexible, layered Kevlar. You can put them in backpacks. You can put them in purses. You can put them pretty much anywhere, right? So having some armor might not be a bad idea. The best armor that I would suggest would be solid wood doors, right? A lot of our doors, if we think about it, the exterior doors are solid, but the interior doors are like that composite material with like nothing in between it. That's a junk door, right? Like if so the procedure in my house is, if somebody breaks in, I grab my gun and I go towards the bad guy. My wife grabs the kids and goes in the opposite direction into the furthest room, then shuts the door, locks the door, and protects the kids. If the door that's separating her from the danger is a flimsy door that you can push and break in half, then she has no armor, right? Like I'm not expecting at 2 a.m. for my wife to get up, put on a plate carrier, put on a Kevlar helmet, grab her guns, and then yank my kids. Like the best armor is a windows, and so that would, I'd say for your home, that's your best armor. Outside the house, get soft armor. It's not that expensive. I mean, all the cool thing about the environment that we're living is all of these things that make our lives safer are getting less expensive. The bad side is that people need to use them more frequently. But you can get some soft armor and you can put it in a backpack and you can keep that with you. I was just talking to a group of guys the other day about a safety checklist for church. And it was, with with all the things that are going on with the churches being attacked and people being attacked, we're going to be bringing a backpack with some soft armor so that we can put it on my kids, we can put it on my wife, we can keep it with us, and it adds to us an extra level of security for when we're exposed. I don't want my wife to like put on the war paint though and have to, you know, like duke it out like Rambo. So again, proportionality, right? Because if she puts on the helmet and the camo gear and all that stuff, it automatically makes her a target. But a backpack slung over her back or my kid's back, or a diaper bag that she puts in front of her chest, like that's pretty inconspicuous. But at the same time, it affords her a great deal of security. So soft armor is good. Solid wood doors are good. Things like that.
All right. So all of our houses solid wood doors.
I do rooms that have people in them. I would do solid doors, right? Again, if you can't afford it, you know, it is what it is. But if you have the option and you're that concerned about it, I would replace doors that lead into people rooms with solid wood. It makes it easier. It makes it a lot safer too, right? You shut that door, and if you put like a shelf up against it or you sit behind it and you push your body against it, it's harder to break through a solid door than it is a door that's got nothing in it.
All right. And you recommend keeping a backpack with you, usually at all times, just with some soft armor, just as a safety?
Yeah, there's no reason why you wouldn't. Like if
Sure.
you know, so like my wife has a diaper bag with her because we have kids that need diapers, right? So in the diaper bag, an extra 2 pounds of soft armor isn't going to hurt. There's no reason that she shouldn't have it. So I again, like, because I'm at a higher level, I keep hard armor in my truck. But in my truck, I also keep more than just armor. I keep a lot. So I have things that are useful to me at my level. My wife should do the same.
Okay.
Right? If you can give your kids that edge in a combat situation, why wouldn't the backpacks? And if you can't afford armor, thick textbooks, you can go to the library, get their 99-cent, you know, encyclopedia from like the 1990s. Throw an encyclopedia in a backpack. Thick books work just so. Do what you can with what you have, right? So if you can't afford armor from some, you know, armor website, get thick textbooks and put them in the backpacks, right? Or put it in a diaper bag. But you want to be as well armed as you can be, and so that's another good idea.
All right. And it seems like what you're saying, ideally, men, you have a pistol with you on all times, at all times. What if you're traveling? What if you have to get on a plane? What if you have to go into one of those offices that they do a test to make sure you don't have any guns? What do you carry with you then to keep the family safe? That's it.
Really, like if you're going to a place that doesn't allow guns, so again, you have to weigh your options, right? So like before the shutdown, bars in my town did pat downs, right? They'd pat you down, right? But they suck at it. So I can sneak a gun in, so I'm fine there, right? But when I go to the baseball stadium, they wand everybody, right? So I can't sneak a gun in when they're wanding people. If I can't sneak in a gun, I can't sneak in a knife.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to figure out what you can do, right? There are a couple tools. So I don't have it with me, but they call them tactical pens. They're just steel cased pens. You can use those as fist packs, or you can use them as a blunt stabbing object. Those are really cool. And they're just writing pens. So when people ask about it, I pull it out and I write with it. Don't get the dumb ones that are like tipped and say like death on them. I mean, like, again, being conspicuous about it. Just say it's a pen, right? Like it's simply a pen. If you can't carry that, you know, again, if you're, so again, and this is where men need to start making difficult decisions. We don't go to the baseball stadium anymore. Or if the danger is so high that I feel the need to have a gun, why am I going to an area that intentionally disarms me? I wouldn't do it, right? So if I can't cheat the system, then I'm not going to go. It really is that simple. And it gets frustrating because my wife loves me. We don't get to go to a lot of concerts anymore because concerts now have started wanding people. They've started making guys pull up their shirts, and they're doing waistband checks. They're doing a lot of active security measures. Well, there's always a way around it. If I can't figure it out, then I'm not going to go, because I know for a fact that somebody else who has ill intent is going to be able to cheat the system. And I'm going to be automatically, one, I'm going to be behind the curve because they're going to initiate the attack. Then I'm going to be behind the curve because I'm unequal. So don't go. If you have to go, you use what you have, right? Again, you've got your fists, you've got tactical pens. I'm not a big fan of pepper spray, because pepper spray is kind of an indiscriminate weapon. It hits everybody equally, and it sucks for everybody, including you. Like, you're not going to pepper spray somebody and not get it too. So if you have to go, learn how to use your hands, pick up a basic boxing class, go take a $99 3-month trial at your local boxing store, and just learn how to basically throw a punch. That's your best bet. But if you can't carry a gun, you gotta do something. Either don't go or find a way to work around the system.
Makes sense. All right. Neighborhood watch programs, and how much information do you let your neighbors know about what you have, and should you know what they have?
So the more you know and the less you tell, the better off you are, right? So there's a book I just read. I read it again because I absolutely love it. It's called 1 Second After. It's a series of 3 books, and it goes through the country after an EMP strike. And in essence, the country reverts 200 years in technology. The more people know about what you have, the more likely people are going to be to take the stuff that you have, because they'll want it too, right? So I don't like people knowing what I have, which is why, like, whenever I get asked how much ammo do you have? How many guns do you have? Where do you keep your guns? Like, all that stuff. I give enough information that I de-incentivize people from breaking into my house, but without incentivizing them to break in. It's like, if I only had 2 guns, like you're probably not going to want to break in to take 2 guns. If I told you I had 50 guns, you'd probably want to break in and take it and risk the danger of me having guns. If I have 100,000 rounds, you're going to want some of them, right? If I have 100 rounds, you're probably not going to care so much. So as little information as you give, the better it is. The more information you can get, the better it is, because it's always bad to neighborhood watches. I'm on the fence about them, because neighborhood, like they used to be when neighborhood watches kind of got created, we did 40 years ago. We're not as tight of a community as we used to be 40 years ago. So if you're in a cool community and you know the people and they're stand-up people and they're intelligent, by all means, set up a neighborhood watch, have like a security team or a safety team. Like, those are cool things. But the last thing I want to do is invite people to me that need more than I'm willing to give, because then it puts my family in danger. And it sounds bad, but my first priority is to my wife and my kids. Yeah. It's not to my neighbor, right? If I can do both, great. But if I can't, wife and kids get it. So make sure that you're not inviting undue attention and undue responsibility that maybe you'll falter and you won't be able to shoulder it, right? You don't want to do that.
Makes a lot of sense. Anything else we missed, or anything that you felt we could have said more about?
No, I mean, so when it comes to this is the one thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand a defensive posture, right? So we talk about guys getting armed and going to church to defend the church, or we talk about guys being armed to the teeth at their houses. Like, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a group of men that are capable of defending, not offending, right? So when we talk about defending your house, defending your family, defending the church, there are legal and spiritual guidelines that men have to follow, and a lot of people don't understand the difference. If somebody breaks into my house in my state, I can kill you inside my house and pretty much get away with it. I would have to literally shoot you in the back as you're stepping off of my driveway from inside my house. in order to be in legal trouble. Morally speaking, I was in way more trouble to begin with, because the second the threat is no longer viable, I have no moral authority to hurt you, right? If I'm at the church and I'm defending the church, then I have the obligation to defend Christ in his presence in the tabernacle. I have the right and the duty to do it, not only as family, but as my actual family, right? I'm not going out, so I'm not going to go to a protest and start a fight with somebody and then use my weapon and then claim self-defense because I went out looking for a fight. If you come to my church, if you come to my family, if you come to my house, it's a different story. And a lot of people don't see the difference between the two of those. And there's a huge difference. I am an extremely capable and violent person if you come to me, but I'm not going to go out and pick a fight. Most intelligent men who are violent and capable of violence don't go picking fights because everybody knows there's a bigger, meaner dog and it's going to get you. So I don't go starting fights, but I'll end a fight if it comes to me. And I think that's a lot of, it's the mentality that a lot of Catholic men have forgotten about. You know, right? They I'm going to pray that God brings us through this turbulent time. It's like, well, do you pray that your wife doesn't get assaulted or that your children don't get kidnapped? Because I don't pray that, because I train to protect against that. I pray for a lot of things, like the hearts of the people that are attacking us. And I pray that people who would have ill will against my family don't, but I don't pray for God to protect me and then not try and actually train to protect myself, because you're asking God to do something that you yourself are not willing to do, and that's not fair.
That's great stuff, Pierce. And like we said in the beginning, that Christians are just not exposed to this. I mean, when was the last time you heard anything from clergy or even Catholic men speaking back and forth? I mean, not in our circles, not up here in the Northeast. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I've never fired a gun in my life. So I'm learning. I just started learning about things from you about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, whenever we started with all this. But now it's on my radar. We've taken steps towards this, and we're, want to get ready to roll. So like I said, thank you so much for all this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. Let me talk about it. Because, I mean, it's a super important concept for men. And like you said, not a lot of people talk about it, right? It's almost frowned upon that are capable of being men, right? It's shameful that we've allowed so many people to shovel us off to the side. And I think it's time that the fire in men's hearts gets reignited, that we're men capable of violence, but we use that capacity to do good and not to do evil.
Yes, and if we haven't learned before, get started now. That's what I'm trying to do. That's my friends, family. We're trying to do. We're taking steps. So that's all we can do. Wherever you're at, start now. Pierce, thank you again. How do we send more people your way?
The website, www.catholicguardians.com. Our Instagram handle is Catholic_Guardians. People can find us there. That's about it. I mean, you can DM us on Instagram or go to the website. There's a contact us section. They can email us, drop us a line. Any questions people have, we can answer it. So.
Appreciate it. Thanks again, Pierce. God bless you. God bless your family.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.